So, what does it actually take to reclaim your life? Today, we're unpacking the incredible story of a woman who took one truly radical step to find her happiness. Our story kicks off right here with this simple but honestly devastating plea from a woman named Fatima to her coach. And this wasn't some casual request for a little self improvement. No, this was a cry for help from someone who felt like she was at the very edge. So, how did she get to this point? Well, Fatima was completely burned out. She'd cycled through countless self-help memberships, workshops, and courses, but she always felt like just another face in the crowd, you know? She was consuming all this generic advice that never led to any real change, leaving her feeling totally unseen and just utterly stuck. Her asking for one-on-one coaching was so much more than just a request. You could just hear the exhaustion in her voice, see the weight she was carrying. It was a clear, urgent cry for help. And boy, was she serious. When her coach quoted the fee for a 6-month program, Fatima paid the entire $2,000 immediately, in full. This wasn't a casual decision. This was a profound investment in her own survival. It was a signal that she was all in on changing her life. So the journey began. But the first step wasn't about fixing anything. It was about seeing her own life from a completely new perspective. Her coach gave her this foundational tool called the 4 quadrants of life. And the goal was simple, but honestly pretty radical. Stop living on autopilot and instead step back to consciously map out her entire world from a bird's eye view. The framework breaks life down into 4 key areas. So Fatima was asked to really examine her mental and physical environment, her relationships, her finances, and, this is the big one, her deeper life vision. What did she actually want underneath all the layers of what she was supposed to want? And this is such a key point. The coach provided the framework and the accountability, sure, but the heavy lifting, that deep, uncomfortable work of self-reflection, that was all on Fatima. She had to be the one to show up, journal in hand, and really face herself. So after about a month and a half of this deep work, something pretty dramatic happened. This was really the pivotal moment in her entire transformation. Just think about that for a second. After looking at her life, especially her spending habits, Fatima came to this startling realization. The money she spent going out on all these social events, it wasn't for joy. It was for a sense of belonging that just left her feeling totally drained. And that was her conclusion. It wasn't just the social life, it was everything. The things she owned, the space she lived in, none of it felt like her anymore. It didn't align with the person she was starting to uncover. And her response was, well, it was radical. She didn't just declutter a closet. No way. She emptied her entire apartment. The furniture, the decorations, all the belongings that represented a version of herself and a life she no longer wanted, it all had to go. Her coach was absolutely speechless when Fatima video called her that night. She was just sitting there on the floor of her empty apartment, surrounded by candles, eating some cheese and jam. And she was just completely, unbelievably happy, liberated. She had created a blank canvas. So, what do you do with a blank canvas? Well, you start to paint, intentionally. This next phase was all about consciously rebuilding a life that was truly hers. I mean, look at the change in her activities. It was just so stark. She traded those draining nights at bars for climbing and kayaking, basically swapping the need to fit in for the feeling of being truly alive. Her personal style completely transformed too. The muted, practical clothes she used to wear just to blend in were replaced with colorful dresses and bold, statement jewelry. Her wardrobe literally became a direct expression of the joy she was feeling inside. And these changes, they just rippled through every single part of her life. She renovated her apartment. She set these long overdue boundaries with her family. She let go of draining friendships. And maybe most symbolically, she took her first ever solo trip to Ethiopia, a place she wanted to go. So what's the core lesson we can take away from Fatima's incredible journey? Well, it really comes down to this one central idea. And here it is, the crucial takeaway. Fatima didn't find her joy by adding more. She found it by removing everything that didn't belong. She cleared space, physically, emotionally, financially, to finally make room for what genuinely mattered to her. But listen, this process was not easy. Real transformation is disruptive. Fatima lost friends,
And her new boundaries, well, they weren't popular with everyone. It's a hard truth of this story. Choosing yourself always costs something. So why did this attempt at change succeed when so many others had failed? Well, first, in one-on-one coaching, she was finally truly seen. Second, she understood that nobody could do the inner work for her. She had to do it herself. And third, she was willing to be radical, to completely dismantle the life that was suffocating her joy, not just tweak it around the edges.
And that brings the central metaphor of this story right back to you. I mean, if you were to clear away the clutter, the obligations, the expectations, the things that don't really bring you joy, what would you paint on your own blank canvas? Because Fatima's story is proof that joy isn't lost, it's just buried. And sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is not to add more, but to clear the space, sit with the emptiness, and finally give ourselves permission to create a life that is joyfully, undeniably our own.